Hello, it's just over 30 years ago that the first free elections were held in South Africa on April the 22nd, 1994. For the first time, all South Africans were given the opportunity to cast a vote for their government. And as you'll know, this came at the end of a long struggle against apartheid when the black community showed enormous resilience and courage. And then when Nelson Mandela was released, these elections were called. Uh, the whole system was pretty chaotic because they just weren't used to doing it. There wasn't a voting list. The indelible ink that was necessary to show whether people had voted or not it just wasn't delivered. Polling stations themselves were sometimes not delivered to where they should have been. But the queues for people wanting to vote were enormous, and people went to enormous pains to make sure they did, whether they were infirm or sick or elderly. They would stand in line waiting for their turn to cast their precious vote. Apparently, even in hospitals where voting was permitted, people would be turning up to vote with their saline drip trolley beside them, and other patients being held up by nursing staff so that they could actually go and cast their vote. This was taken so seriously because this was a sign of their freedom. And it's, I think, worth remembering that today as we prepare to vote tomorrow, because the privilege that we have of casting our votes is an enormous one. The South Africans saw this vote as a symbol of their new freedom. And the bombing campaigns of the right wing didn't stop them taking the risk of going and standing in line at the polling station. But our voting, in a sense, doesn't particularly feel like a free vote. I'm reminded of the story where someone asks how to what are the directions to somewhere, and the answer comes back, well, if I was going there, I wouldn't start from here. And I think that's how probably we feel. If for the country we really want, we might not actually start with either of our two main political parties. We might want something completely different. But the choice we've got is the choice we've got. And like those South Africans, it's so important that we express our opinion, and I'm sure many of us will do that tomorrow. It is a privilege, and we need to remember that today there are many, many countries in the world where there is no freedom, no genuine freedom. There may be a sort of mock election, a pretense at democracy. At least I think we can be sure that our voting is genuine, the votes are properly counted, and the government will be a government that has won the most candidates. But that's not true, of course, in many countries. And so there is a sort of freedom, even though sometimes it feels to us to be quite restricted. There is a freedom that we express in casting our vote, which I'm sure we shall all want to celebrate tomorrow as we go to our polling stations, which will no doubt be there waiting for us.